Trust Me Travel presents a series of travel narratives from around the world entitled Travel Time with Robert and Tracy. This narrative is for Bangkok in Thailand, Southeast Asia. Bangkok is on the north end of the Gulf of Siam.
Bangkok, oriental setting, and the city don't know what the city is getting. The creme de la creme.
Bangkok is thought of this big exotic Asian city, and probably deservedly so, but it's not a coastal city. It's about 2 hours north of the Gulf of Siam. You land in the port town of Lam Shabang and get on a fairly nice interstate type highway, or you can arrive at the international airport. You can take the train from the airport, but if you take a car, once you get to Bangkok, you know it because traffic stops move. Thailand is a constitutional monarchy. It's the only Southeast Asian country that was not colonized by European powers, and they're quite proud of that. And so they're quite proud of their royal family as well. And so we happen to be there during the princess's birthday month. We are visiting here the Vinimac Mansion. This was one of the early royal homes or palaces. The movie King and I would have depicted Rama the First and the tutor that he brought in to teach. This was the place where that took place. And again, every place that of importance has a spirit house, as do the palace. A Thai tuk-tuk is a little bit more sophisticated than other Southeast Asian ones, but we're really here to see Wat Po. This is one of Thailand's most important religious sites, second only to the Grand Palace and the Temple of the Emerald Buddha. Remembering the story of Buddha taking a piece of spoiled food and eating it unknowingly, realizes that he is dying, lays down, forgives the person who gave him the food accidentally, and achieves nirvana, a state of grace that allows him to escape the repetitious repeating of life's cycles. So this is an important pose, and you can see the amount of effort that went into depict Buddha here. On the back side there are 108 bronze bowls, and these are, each one represents a deed or a thought or a process that you can do to achieve nirvana like Buddha did. These 108 auspicious characteristics we're all here to do. People come along and drop coins in each of these bowls with the idea that it represents that they are achieving one of these characteristics. Of course, it's a great money maker for the temple. Helps maintain it. The temple was actually built about 250 years ago when Rama I relocated the capital from Ayutthaya, which had been destroyed by the Burmese, and he brought part of the original temple compounds from Ayutthaya and had them interred into these cheda. Chedas usually hold cremated remains of humans, but these hold the temple remains. In addition to these major chedas, others were built around the area to inter the royal family as well. Other things that they brought from Ayutthaya were a large collection of Buddhas, and here is one of them. In addition to the rescued statues from the old destroyed capital of Ayutthaya, people over the years have donated other images of Buddha to the temple, so now they have well over 1,000 different images of Buddha. Here you will recognize the pose of Buddha in witnessing enlightenment, but they are in all different states of preservation. Many of them are in need of repair, a little TLC, and so people are hired, or they sometimes will donate their time and effort to help repair and preserve the images of Buddha. You may not recognize the difficulty of such a task until you watch one of these women start to do this little delicate hand painting, and then you think about the 1,000 other statues that need it. That's a lot of work. As I mentioned, we're here during the month of the princess's birthday. There are two princesses. One is well respected, the other one is just referred to as the princess. The well respected one's favorite color is purple, so you see a lot of that. And we're headed now over to the Grand Palace, and they have a very strict dress code. Tracy needs to rent a shirt to be able to go in after finding one that is not very flattering, but it is acceptable, we're off to see the Grand Palace. The Grand Palace compound actually consists of the palace itself, but also a very important temple, the Temple of the Emerald Buddha. And this temple is actually a complex. It has many buildings in here. Many were built by Rama I, again the great king who rebuilt the capital. The Cheta is said to contain part of Buddha's hip bone. The library was built to contain the laws and records, and Wat Pagao actually holds the Emerald Buddha. We'll talk a little bit about that. But there is a massive amount of use of gold here, and this gold reflects the hot Thai sun, and it gets very warm in this area. Throughout the temple grounds are statues of mythical creatures, both from Hindu mythology and Buddhist mythology, that are there to protect the temple. They're really there to help guard the Emerald Buddha. The Emerald Buddha has a long and storied history. Originally thought to be part of the Angkor Wat temple complex in Cambodia back in the 17th century, was brought to Thailand when the Thais destroyed the Khmer Empire. The reason why the Burmese armies had attacked and destroyed the Thai capital was to try and capture the Emerald Buddha. Other temples in other countries say they have a Emerald Buddha, but this is the real Emerald Buddha from back in Angkor Wat. And as such, it is treated with quite a bit of veneration, and only the king and the king's oldest son can actually touch the statue. The statue is not actually emerald, it's really jade, and they're very protective of it based upon the dress code that Tracy had to conform to, and the fact you got to take your shoes off. But once you get inside the actual building and look up, it's really not that big of a statue, maybe 2-3 feet tall, but it is the center of all Buddhist veneration here in Thailand. All Buddhist temples have a spot or a area of importance for education and teaching, and this is the spot of the Emerald Buddha. Over the years, other buildings have been built within the temple compound. Most of these are chetas, which hold the earthly remains of the royal family. Leaving the temple compound, you are now in the Grand Palace, and we're now listening to the national anthem of the Kingdom of Thailand, and they're getting ready for the princess's birthday. All spit and shine and polish. Here Tracy is getting her picture taken with one of the guards. Here is the actual current royal palace where Rama X now lives and reigns. Far cry from the Vinimac mansion that we saw earlier. And they are generally, the Thai people are generally quite fond of the royal family. They may not like their politicians, and the army is currently ruling the country, but the monarchy is well respected and well liked, and it is kind of the stability of Thailand. Bangkok is divided into two halves by the Chao Phraya River, and there's a series of canals that interconnect everything, and we're going to go take a tour through some of these canals on a long-tail boat. A long-tail boat, the long tail is in fact the propeller shaft that sticks out the end. It's powered by these giant truck or car engines. They're quite loud, and I think they try to compete as to which is the boat's got the biggest engine on the back of it. But they move quite smoothly and rapidly along here. Here's our boat captain taking us along one of the canals here. And this is very much a tourist attraction, but it is also used by the local population to move around and to transport things. But we're coming up here to what I call the floating 7-Eleven. This little lady here has got pretty much everything any tourist would possibly want. Beer, a hat. We buy a few things from her and wish her good luck. As you travel down the canals, it's actually pretty nice. You're out in the open and away from all the gold and glitter of the palaces and the temples. The temperature seems to drop and the moving air feels pretty comfortable. But you also get to see how the normal Bangkok residents live. Now you're looking in their backyards, as it were, but you get to see the family here. They're just sitting here watching us. Actually, they're here to watch us buy some bread for 20 baht, for the equivalent of about $3 US. We buy some bread, and I'm thinking, well, she's just getting some bread to take home for her family. But no, she says, we're here to feed the fish. And so watch these fish. This is a pretty standard stop for these tour boats to come and feed the fish, so they're well trained. Pretty entertaining. But traveling down the canals, you can see the various residences and the people who live here. There's street signs showing which way to go so you don't get too lost. And you move pretty swiftly with these boats down the canal. This big pipeline on the left-hand side is in fact the water line, or the water supply to these various homes. And every now and again they raise it up so that you can get your boat underneath it. But as you skim along the water at quite high speed, the passing boats are full of other tourists just like us. You get a chance to see what you look like to them. We actually take the longtail boat down to our hotel. It's a 2 or 3 mile journey in pretty choppy water, not very comfortable, but it was certainly faster than trying to take the car or the train. Bangkok is world famous for its bad traffic. We're having dinner that night on a converted rice barge floating in the Chao Phraya. And of course, good night, Bangkok.
One night in Bangkok makes the heart man humble. Not much between despair and ecstasy. One night in Bangkok and the
Bangkok has a population of about 8.5 million and a very large central business core, but we're here to see the tourist sites, including these novice monks. A young teenage boy is expected to spend a month or 6 weeks in the temple learning about Buddhism in his early teens. We're here in the flower market, seeing all things flower. If you buy a lei in Hawaii, those flowers are probably grown here in Thailand. But they also make a lot of offerings for the local temples that the people purchase and buy. And you can come out here and see the flowers being delivered, have the arrangements being made up into these large shops. They also have these special offerings here if you want to donate something more to the temple. Adjacent to the flower market is the fruit and vegetable market, and I was pleasantly surprised to find apples from America. But any fruit and vegetable grown locally, and many imported as well, can be found here. The one exception to that is durian, which is somewhat banned, but you can still find it on occasion. And bugs, doesn't look too appetizing, but people in fact do buy them. But you'll also see these Buddhist monks. This is a gentleman who lives in one of the local temples. They go around every day and ask for alms. This is the spirit house for the market. You can see that they have a lot of spirit. They leave these offerings for that. But the monks only eat twice a day, first thing in the morning, then late in the evening, and they only eat food which has been given to them during their early morning rounds. We're now off to see the Chinatown. This is a durian, quite famous for its bad smell. But Chinatown is the largest Chinatown in Southeast Asia. These people here are mixing up some shrimp. They told us not to take their picture. I think they were mixing cheaper shrimp with better shrimp and then trying to sell it off. But you'll see all sorts of different dried fruits and vegetables. The electrical lines overhead indicate the amount of growth here. A young novice as well, seeking some alms. Again, the old gentleman from the temple receiving his alms for the morning. The giving and receiving of alms is part of the Buddhist tradition to help the poor, but also to teach one humility. Tracy, of course, with her kind heart, does the same. It's our time now to leave Bangkok. Before we do, we go to the local temple to get a charm blessed, and the gentleman who we saw in the streets collecting alms, of course, is doing the blessing for us. But goodbye to Bangkok. It's been a delightful couple of days here. We're off to see more of Southeast Asia. Our next stop will be Vietnam. But that's another time on Travel Time with Robert and Tracy, presented by Trust Me Travel. We have a large selection of travel videos on trustmewithtravel.com. So join us there, trustmewithtravel.com. Robert and Tracy wish you happy travels.